Okay, well, our next question was sent in the CornyDriveThru at gmail.com from Matt Carr. In a recent interview, Austin Aries said he thinks Jim doesn't like him because he described Jim's version of Ring of Honor as Smoky Mountain of Honor. He added that he liked Smoky Mountain and was not insulting Jim or Smoky Mountain Wrestling at all, and he even apologized. Is there any truth to this story?
Well, there is truth to the story that's what he said. That's not true that is the reason I dislike him. That's like just another brick in the wall. But no, we've talked about, here's the Aries doesn't get it. He's like a lot of these fucking, and you'd be surprised now, the most opinionated and or insufferable douchebag wrestlers are the independent wrestlers that have the guys in the big companies are humble and lovable and thankful to be there. And the fucking independents are the ones that all want to fucking change the world or organize unions or fucking make sure that wrestling is inclusive for everyone. So, we'll all just wrestle fucking small school children and, 100-pound females or whatever the fuck. And Aries was one of the pioneers of that. He's just a miserable prick in the locker room. He's the kind of guy that, despite the fact, and this has been borne out by all these companies, despite the fact that he has great wrestling matches, he's never going to be the top guy in a major company, not even if he had a good attitude. But he has great wrestling matches, especially for the Ring of Honor style or the current, modern style of wrestling. He has great fucking matches, and he can talk pretty well. But he causes more trouble in your locker room with getting people fucking discontented and just fucking, people get weary of him, complaining and bitching and griping about his own shit and everybody else's shit to begin with. And he's never happy anywhere, as has been evidenced by, he's worked more places in a third of the time than I have. It's taken me almost 40 years to go through every company. He did it in like fucking 10.
The line Smoky Mountain of Honor, which is a pretty stupid way of doing that. I think if you were going to combine them, it may not be Smoky Mountain of Honor. But did that piss you off when he said it?
Well, yeah, because he said it in a derisive way because he wants us to go back, go backwards to when the product was good. A man made sense and was more logical and didn't cater to whiny little bitches. That's terrible. But it was his way of saying, well, this is not new. This is not modern. This is old fashioned shit. Unfortunately, Roderick Strong, Eddie Edwards, and Davey Richards, although Davey had his own issues with his level of commitment to wrestling at various times, the Briscoes, all those guys flourished in that environment because they worked hard and were working for the good of the company instead of the good of themselves.
Is Austin still in wrestling? I actually haven't thought about him in a while.
No, he quit, and as I believe, last I've heard, he did become a fireman and EMT type of person, as he was going to do. But anyway, because of their level of commitment to getting the company over rather than themselves, Austin Aries couldn't hang around and get involved in the Sinclair era because he was a miserable fucking whiny little bitch. And Delirious and I asked him to give us an opportunity to address some of his concerns without making the whole locker room miserable, and he refused to do it. So we discontinued booking his miserable ass. And he didn't get to be involved in Sinclair and et cetera, where some people have flourished since then. And that's probably what he's mad about. But all those other guys that were younger than him in some cases, or at least his same age, that were on the roster at that time flourished because under Smoky Mountain of Honor, because they weren't pains in the ass, except for guys like Steen and Jericho, who notice a common theme here.
Not Jericho.
Or did I say Jericho? Steen and Generico.
Yeah.
Who were pains in the ass to deal with, and we didn't have time for problem children when we were making major changes and shit like the ownership of the company and didn't have time to cater like a small independent would to certain guys because they had talents in some ways, but were complete pains in the ass and were standing in the way of the bigger picture. And that's another thing that independent level wrestlers who have never run companies or booked companies or worked at high levels fail to understand, which is why now I'm sure they've got the same thing in all elite wrestling. High maintenance motherfuckers that's a pain in the ass when you're trying to do something.
How many of these guys that have openly complained about you, thinking about Aries, and now it's opening, I'm thinking about Colt Cabana, Young Bucks, were guys that were fans of Jim Cornette, and then Jim Cornette said, we don't have a place for you right now, and then all of a sudden they hate Jim Cornette.
Well, I don't know, but if they were fans of Jim Cornette, why would they do everything that Jim Cornette would tell a wrestler not to fucking do?